With Phase 4 well underway, we have the vast majority of the Burning Crusades raiding content behind us and conquered. We endured the slow start of Kara, Gruul and Mag, we saw pre-nerf tier 5 Lady Vash with CC immune mind controls, as well as KT's advisors and weapons at full power. More recently, Black Temple and Hygel have opened, providing less of a challenge than the tier that preceded them, but allowing so much iconic loot to come into the game, such as tier 6, First Vision of Sargeras, and of course, Warglaives. Before we get stuck into it though, I just want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Opera GX. Opera GX is a free-to-download browser tailored to fit how people actually use the internet. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm on WoW, editing, or just literally doing anything online, I have so many tabs open on my second monitor, random apps in the background, and generally it's just a bit of a mess to keep track of everything. The sidebar is a one-stop place for you to choose which apps you most frequently use, with integrated social media channels for the likes of Twitch, Discord, Twitter, and many others. You can log in and directly have access to whatever you want whenever you need it, allowing you to stay up to date with notifications easily and seeing who is live when. The GX player allows you to log into Spotify, Apple Music and YouTube Music directly, and whenever you start streaming a video or audio in another tab, the player will automatically pause and then resume when it's done. Speaking of customization, you can do a lot with this browser, with loads of preset themes, backgrounds and advanced customization on top of that if nothing suits you. You want an animated cat girl background? You can have an animated cat girl background, or maybe something else entirely. GX Corner actively looks for upcoming releases across different platforms, giving you the ability to see what is releasing when, as well as recommending free games. Opera GX allows you to import your current browser's history, favorites, bookmarks, save passwords, and cookies. One of the pain points of changing browser has always been that initial setup period, but with Opera GX, it's just a feature that takes no time to use. Are you not always at your PC and use mobile a lot? Well, good news, because Opera GX is also on mobile as well. It's still free and still has all the same great features. Start using the browser the way you use the internet. Download Opera GX for free with my link below in the comments section or in the description. Many thanks to Opera GX for the sponsor. Let's talk WoW. That leaves us with one major tier left, a tier that back in the day was very much seen in a similar light to how Nax 40 was. A severe difficulty spike at the end of the expansion for the most elite of the elite raiders to bash their heads against something whilst we eagerly await what expansion will follow. This was patch 2.4 and the opening of Sunwell Plateau. It holds a place in memories of many as one of the most challenging tiers that Blizzard provided during the early years of the game, featuring DPS checks such as Brutalis, more mechanical checks in the Eridar Twins, the legendary Muru and Entropius encounter, and ending with a battle against Kill Jaden. So in this video, I'm going to set out to have a look back at the Sunwell, what it's remembered for, and whether it will be the most difficult raid we've seen so far in the classic timeline, or just a short tier of 6 bosses who we're going to run over fairly easily. Let's start with this. Blizzard have already communicated that they intend to offer both a pre-nerf and later a post-nerf version of the Sunwell. Following Classic, Blizzard heard loud and clear that raiding felt too easy, and in response set out to make TBC content equal to its most difficult iteration from back in the day, minus bugs. Well, this has been true for the most part. Black Temple should have been a little bit different, specifically the Mother Shiraz fight is not using the pre-nerf version, though overall things have been true to how they were. So this means we are assured of a pre-nerf Sunwell. Nice, because in 2008 only a handful of guilds ever managed to clear the entire raid. It was that hard. Old WoW progress pages show us that in total 358 guilds managed to clear Sunwell Plateau whilst it was relevant content during the TBC expansion. Another page I found estimates the total percentage clear among all guilds as low as 0.26%, and the overall duration of the raid from its launch in 2.4 to the Wrath pre-patch in 3.0.2 was 142 days. However, all bosses were only available for attempts for 85 days. This was because the boss releases were staggered or time-gated. You got to a certain point and you could not progress any further. This also does make some of the fights seem as though they took a while to kill, when in reality, they didn't. When the raid opened, 3 bosses were available for guilds to try. The instance launched on 25th March 2008, and one day later, yes, just one day, all 3 had been defeated. SK Gaming were leading the pack, who would of course go on to win the race for this tier in its entirety. In fact, during this time between when the raid opened and when the next boss became available, dozens of guilds got a clear on the first 3. Those first 3 bosses were Kalagos, Brutalis, and Felmist. And I want to pause a little bit here to talk about Brutalis and DPS. So, Brutalis was seen as the patchwork of the expansion, a big dumb pile of health that hits very, very hard. It's the raid saying, if you can't do this, don't even bother going any further. Or at least it was supposed to be the DPS check. A later boss would have something to say about that, as we will get into. In Brutalis's initial state, he had about 10.3 million health and a 6-minute in rage. To deal 10.3 million health in 6 minutes, you need a minimum total raid DPS of a little over 29k. SK Gaming's world first kill was about 4 minutes and 40 seconds, by the way. Now, currently, in Tier 6, I think the closest thing we have to a patchwork fight is Terran Gorefiend. Yeah, the DPS can get messed up by the Ghost, but Hydral has way too much RNG with all the silences and stun spam for bosses to be considered. So I went and had a look at my guild's last Terran kill, and we did an average raid DPS of 43,000. Have a look at your guild's last Terran logs if you want. Literally everybody should be over 29k. The levels of optimization from raid comp, gearing and so on now is such that DPS levels are way above what you would have seen in 2008. In fact, 43k is more average raid DPS than you need to clear patchwork in Nax 25 during Wrath. No, really, I'm not even joking. Wrath patchwork needs an average raid DPS of somewhere around 36k, and the gear in Sunwell is super powerful. It's miles better than pretty much everything you're wearing at the moment. In terms of anything in the Sunwell being a DPS check, don't worry about it, we're already doing enough DPS for the next expansion. Okay, back to the bosses and how fast they were cleared in 2008. So the first 3 were cleared by day 2. Now, in terms of staggered boss releases, I simply cannot find any articles back from 2008 on it, but I believe Eridar Twins released 2 weeks after launch on 9th of April 2008, and were defeated 1 day later by Nihilum on the 10th of April 2008. In terms of nerfs during TBC, the first 3 had nothing, and the Eridar Twins had some minor bug fixes. There used to be different loot depending on the kill order, and trash respawn was removed from the doors nearby. A further 2 weeks later, Muru released on the 23rd of April 2008, and he took until the 4th of May to be defeated. This is the longest period of time for any boss to be defeated in the instance, and it's only 11 days. Which isn't really that long, to be honest. In fact, looking at SK Gaming's kill video, you can see the final phase of the encounter in Tropius has about 2.2 million health. Let's say, for example, by this point in time your raid is doing 40k DPS average during this portion of the fight. I might be highballing it here. It depends on your cooldowns, it depends on deaths, whether you've saved heroism, and so many other things. Then again, Sunwell gear, very good. Anyways, 2.2 million divided by 40,000 is 55. Yeah, 55 seconds. He's gonna die in under 1 minute. In Black Temple with solid DPS, you can totally skip the demon phase on Illidan. He lands after flying, you press all of your buttons, and sometimes he doesn't even transform into a demon at all. DPS checks are not going to be a thing. If anything's hard, it will be a mechanics check, which Muru just isn't, really. Eridar Twins, I think, has more of a mechanics check, and Kil'jaeden definitely does. In terms of nerfs for Muru, Blizzard have already confirmed they want to remove the spell knockback from the last phase of the fight. In patch 2.43, the entire Muru encounter, the ads, everything involved in it was given it a blanket nerf to their health. Finally, I believe Kil'jaeden released 1 month after Muru, so 2 months after the patch dropped in total. He was available on 21st of May 2008 and was defeated 4 days later by SK Gaming on 25th of May 2008. In terms of nerfs, none to speak of, but the entire instance was made easier when the Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch dropped. However, the only boss to receive significant changes during TBC was Muru. So basically, in other words, even pre-nerf, I'm not really expecting that much from the Sunwell. I still think the 2 end bosses of Tier 5, Vash and KT, will be the most challenging content in Classic until we start hitting up Ulduar hard modes. Whilst our crazy DPS these days and knowledge of optimization certainly helps a huge deal, that's not all we have going for us. Our version of TBC has been much more favourable for raiders. Farming gear has just been easier. Tier 4 was nerfed as Tier 5 opened, Tier 5 was nerfed before Tier 6 opened, and every achievement in the game was removed with the opening of Zul'Aman. Zul'Aman on top of that's been a very good catch-up patch to give us many more sources of easily available gear. Original TBC, all achievements were only removed during the Sunwell patch in 2.4, 4, we can already catch up super effectively through raids which have been nerfed early with no hurdles from achievements, meaning a massively higher volume of players have easy access to raiding content. And even back in 2008 with the staggered Sunwell boss releases, guilds then would take a matter of days to down each boss. Muru, for all he's hyped up to be, took 11 days. Comparatively, BT and Hyjal took longer in 2008, they were 21 and 26 days respectively. I suppose the question is, will Blizzard stagger these bosses in modern TBC? Can you imagine waiting 2 months to do Kill Jaden, assuming that's correct of course? I'll be interested in Blizzard did a write-up on what data they have on their end and how they plan to do things these days. Speaking personally, I mean, yeah, just give us all the bosses day one. There will still be staggered content on the Isle of Quel'Danas with the dailies and the vendors and all the other content there already. And it's not like, oh no, I wonder what the next boss will be, what will be their tactics, loot and so on in 2022 either. Nevertheless, I'll be interested to see how well this ages. Sunwell does have amazing loot with great itemization, some really hyped up and well remembered bosses, oh, and a legendary bow. I guess that's pretty cool. It's always exciting to see an orange drop. Let me know if you ever did the raid back in the day, how you found it, how far you got, and what you expect from it these days. As always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one very soon.